Alright, everyone. Welcome to Street City Studio. If this is your first time, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. But if this is your first time here, I am a toy collector, enthusiast, and a multimedia artist. I dabble and play with everything from drawing and pencil to clay to, like I said, toy photography, but also things like 3D printing and filament and resin, also 3D modeling and 3D sculpting, as well as sculpting in real clay. But today, I've been going through my photos, really trying to get better. Really, I'm trying to improve, and I've been watching a lot of videos on how to use my camera better. I've been watching videos on how to Photoshop better, and all kinds of things, lighting, posing, and today I'm in here in Photoshop looking through some of my older photos, and trying to really make them a bit better. If you see here, this is on the left here, we got my before. This is the shot I have already posted to Instagram and Facebook and everything. And I really was happy with this shot for the most part. But when I'm really being honest with myself, there's always room for improvement. And I've spent some time already working on it, and you can see there's some big differences. And while I was happy with the original, right, it really doesn't compare. And you can even do some really close-ups or split screens here for a real comparison, and look at the difference there, right? Some of the things that really stand out to me is you can see the pixelated lighting, or I'm not sure what to call it, LED lighting, right? You can see each little LED or whatever, right? But in the in the fully edited version, that's what I was going for, right? Just a white hot, clean white, and it looks so sharp, so smooth, right? And also, if you go back to the original, I really like the blue on the toy, but Photoshop has really allowed me to tweak the colors as I see fit. And there's a lot that went into some of this, and maybe we'll touch on that as we go, right? But it's not as simple as just bumping up the saturation, or changing the hue. It's a combination of everything, You can really look at the difference. There's an overhead split screen. But I don't know that today's necessarily a educational video, right? I don't know that I can teach you guys how to use Photoshop fluently, but I am going to come in here and play with some of my pictures and try and get them a little better. And hopefully, if you guys learn something in the process, but I think I'm trying to learn is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to learn how to get these things better before I tell you exactly how to get yours better, I do have some others that I've been playing with here, and you can see the side-by-sides again, or the split screens. Right, the top is the original that I had posted a long time ago, and then the bottom is some of the modifications I've made to it just this morning here. Oh no, that's too far. You can't see much. There we go. But you can see this one's just a little smoother, I think. The lighting's evened out and looks a little more realistic. This one's real blurry, real grainy. The lighting is bad. Let me take another look at this. Let's look at this one over here. This is a fun one because I was real happy with how this one was turning out. And I didn't dislike it before, but I just felt like, I don't know, it could be a lot better, I guess. And I think I've really achieved that to a degree. If we do the split screen, right? You can see the top, again, is the before. Watch what happens here. Alright, look how smooth that looks. The white hot background looks a lot smoother. The building or alleyway looks a lot smoother. Let's do there we go, side by side here. Especially his front tire, this whole front end of the bike, right? Just the tire looks a lot smoother. The headlight looks a lot smoother. The gas tank, look at that, right? And I made, one of the things I did here is I made the red darker than the rest of the scenes. Like you can tell, like the yellow I made lighter, brighter, right? And then the red I made darker. And it worked, right? In the way that I was hoping. Because that red is so bright that it just wants to pull your eye in. And I think it kind of distracts maybe from the rest of the shot. And the yellow too, that was another color in a different direction I went with it, but for the same reasons, right? They really distracted from the rest of what I wanted to achieve, right? I was trying to achieve that really white background, and I think the bright yellow and the bright red are really distracting from that white background. And so pulling them down a bit really makes a difference. And even you can see, I think now that I'm looking at it, the white is actually darker, but it still helps. Maybe not that much. I thought it was a little darker, but maybe not. Do them side by side here. But the idea is that, you don't want them pulling your eye in to right here or right here and just getting stuck there. But you can see that looks a lot smoother, right? And even some of the sand and stuff, it's good to have some texture, but smoothing it out kind of helped, I think. Because again, you're going to get lost staring at some of this sand maybe. But like I said, I think we're going to play with some of these pictures and see what we can achieve with them. maybe. Right, here's what I like. And I like this one a lot. But it's not perfect. There's some things I don't like about it. And I don't know that we can fix all of them. But we can see what we can do, right? I know one of the things I don't love about this is this. Oh, I won't zoom in now. Let me see. That's weird. Well, I'll just skip over that a little bit. But I was going to say, Iron Man looks real warm. The light on his white, especially on his legs there, the light looks real warm in comparison to the rest of the shot. Right? Especially over here on Vision, you got some real white spots that don't look orange. So that kind of feels wrong or distracting. But we'll see what we can do, you know. I like to just kind of come in here and play with the settings and see what each one does. Because like I said, I've been watching videos after videos trying to figure this stuff out. But I find sometimes just doing it is more rewarding in the end, right? You can actually see the differences for yourself, right? And so we'll come in here and look at them. I like to start right at the top of the list because there's a whole list here, and we can minimize these real quick and take a look at what's on this list. All right. All right. So we got the basic. We got tone curve, HSL, split toning, detail, lens corrections, effects, and camera calibration. Now some of these I don't even mess with yet, but basic is a great place to start, right? And so you can come in here, and this is your white balance, and you can play with the temp to make it cooler, right, or warmer. And that's pretty neat by itself. But then once you've done that, or instead of that even, because we can put it back to 0 here, instead of that you can play with the tint, either towards green or towards purple, right? And if you've played with the temperature and then the tint, right, that gives you a slightly different effect as well. Put them both back to 0 because I'm kind of happy with the temperature and tint as it is, right? But you can also come in here and see what the auto white balance will give you, and that seems about the same as what I had actually. Right. There might be a minor difference, but I didn't see one. And you can come in here to tone next, right? And it'll auto tone. Now I didn't love what it did there, right? You can compare, right? You washed it out. I didn't like that, right? So I'm going to reset that. And I can play with it myself now, right? And you got some options here: exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. And you can, like I said, play with each of them to see. The exposure is how much light exposure that shot gets, or got. And you can pump it up, pump it down. And now, this shot isn't poorly lit, but it might be nice to kind of pull it darker, because some of the other things I might do might make it brighter, right, as I go here, right? But we're going to leave it at 0 for right now. contrast, right? Pull it down, it kind of flattens it out a bit, right? Pump it up, and it just makes it that much more vibrant. I don't know if that should be appropriate, because vibrancy is another, yeah, right here's a vibrancy option, but you get what I'm saying, right? There's a lot of contrast or less contrast. Right. Now I know a lot of toy photographers like to just bump that contrast and brightness kind of way up, or some of them will pull that brightness down and pump the contrast up, or whatever. You know, there's any number of combinations, I guess. But I try to avoid ending up looking, I don't know, too overexposed, too high contrast. Some of these filters and some of these comic book filtered images, sometimes it looks good, but sometimes, you know, you'll see like a lot of auras and glowing figures. You can just tell they bumped the saturation and everything up too high. And I like, that's one of the reasons I don't like to use Photoshop a lot, because I like to be able to get a good photo as a foundation, right? Because even if I'm going to Photoshop it, is it worth Photoshopping in the first place, right? But so I'm going to reset them. Where did it go? Okay. So, where were we? Contrast. I might bump the contrast up a little bit, right? But you don't want to overdo it. You don't want your colors too colory. You don't want it too oversaturated. Highlights. Let's see here, right? And highlights are like, you know, your bright spots, right? Like you can tell clearly here on Wasp's face. Oh yeah, it's not zooming for me for some reason, but on Wasp's face you can see real clearly the well-lit side. That bright white side is considered the highlight side, right? But the other side almost isn't touched at all, except for maybe a little bit under the eye there, right? We'll go back to 0 on that. But shadows, right? If you turn the shadows up, it brightens everything. All the dark spots get brightened a bit, you see. You can darken it. I'm going to go the other way, and it makes your shadows darker, right? And that one's not bad. You can pull them shadows down a little bit sometimes, and it don't look bad, right? Let's side by side here. You can see on Iron Man there, that's probably the most dramatic spot, right? Maybe a little bit on U.S. Agent's shield here too, right? But not even much. So we'll go back. Whites is the same thing except for the whites, right? Go up, and the whites are going to get pulled out and brighter, and go down, and the whites are going to get muted, right? Into grays practically, right? Blacks is very similar to the shadow, but it is different, right? Let's go all the way down with the shadow here, and you can see there is a difference, right? It made everything super dark. Let's go right back and I'll show you the shadow all the way down, right? That's all the way down in the shadow. Yeah. See, and it's similar. It's dark in most of the same places, but not the whole image overall still looks equally as bright as it did before. right? Let's go back. When you pull this one down, the whole image got darker, right? Alright, now on to presence. We have clarity, and this is kind of like a sharpening tool, and this ties in with what I said about saturation and stuff. You really don't want to overdo it with this one, right? But you can see as I slowly turn it up, right, it sharpens it out and makes it more clear. Right, turn it down and everything gets real muddy. See? Vibrance. Now this is kind of similar to saturation. Right? It's the vibrancy of the colors, right? You can mute the colors down to a muted palette here, like it is now. You can pump it up, more vibrant. And now saturation is real similar. You can pump it up and get those colors real bright. Drop it down real low and just get black and white. Right? Let's reset it so I don't have to sit there and play with it. But there's a lot you can do just with these little options here in the basic menu. Right? And even if you want to do a black and white photo, right, there's a lot you can achieve right here. Right. But now we'll move on. Tone curve I don't use. This is some really advanced level stuff. I don't touch that one. But I do play with the next one, HSL, which is hue, saturation, and luminance. Okay? But you also have all option here, and some color and black and white options here, but they're the same basically as this menu, just kind of restructured, right? Black and white menu. But I like to go to HSL all, right? So you got hue right here, saturation and luminance, all in the same menu. Or you can do just the hue, just the saturation, just the luminance. Right? I like to do all of them. And now what you can do in here is play with the hue of each of these colors, right? Let's pick one. We'll go with purple, right? Purple, you can slide the little slider here for the hue of all the purple in the image to be more red or less red. See, so I just made it blue, basically, right? Made it almost a red, dropped it out to a blue, right? Let's go back to 0 on that. And we'll do yellow. We got yellow here, and you can slide it towards green or towards orange, right? Red, where's red? You can slide red towards yellow or towards the purple, I suppose. Yeah, purple. Right? And now each of these colors you can do the same thing with the saturation, right? So we'll go just the blue. So now just the blue lost all its saturation, or most of its saturation there, right? Or just bump it up. So now all the blue's gonna really pop, right? See the difference there? Right. maybe I want Captain America, or not Captain, U.S. Agent and Iron Man here, and they're red to pop, right? You can turn that red up, and actually it'll do this Wonder Man's W on his shirt too, but that's okay. Right? Let's do green, right? I want to turn the green up on Vision because he's so clear. Right? Let's turn that green up. Let's play with the hue a little bit because I don't love that. It's going to be a tight window here. Something like that. Maybe turn it back down just a tiny bit on the saturation. Right? There we go. That's pretty nice. I like that. Right. But now luminance. Luminance is kind of interesting and kind of different. It's basically the brightness of that color, right? And we'll use a blue because we got a lot of blue here, right? Blue's a good example. We'll turn it up, and you see it gets washed out with light, right? Turn it down, and it's like the blue is darker. So this luminance is kind of fun to play with. You get some interesting results. For example, we just played with that green a bit. Let's turn the luminance down on the green, and look, he starts to look a little more solid maybe, right? Kind of want to bring that saturation back down again some more on that green. What is it? Well, I guess it's not really up, is it? That's alright, there we go. Somewhere in there. Now, it might be kind of nice to make that yellow pop too, right? There we go. It was getting lost in there a bit. Let's see luminance with that yellow. Turn it up. Turn it down. Somewhere in there. Right there. -16. Yeah, that's fine. Let's turn this purple up a little. Ooh. That had a neat effect. I like that. That worked well. Let's look at the luminance on red. I think I like darker for that. That's nice. Alright, so we can move on from there, I think. Oh, you know what? Let's take a look. This little button here turns on and off the adjustments for each little bracket, for each little category. Right, so that's what it looks like before we started with the HSL menu. And there it is after. Alright, so now we've got split toning. I like split toning, but I don't know how well it's going to work here in this shot. Let's go to this shot real quick, and I can kind of show you split toning, right? Because I've already processed this one to some colors I liked on split toning. But basically, you can add a color to your highlight sections, and you can add color to your shadowy sections, right? And you can play with the hue and saturation for each of those, right? But so for the highlight section, I have it at this turquoisey blue that's real close to the original blue of the figure there, right? And his accessory even is pretty much the same kind of blue, this turquoisey blue, right? And then the shadows, I have this really dark, deep navy blue, right? But let's play with that and see what happens when we play with it a little bit, right? So we'll play with the highlight one first, and we'll go more red, right? And you can kind of see it start to show up some pinks in his translucent bits, right? You can see the pinks start to come through, maybe even a little bit on his knees there. You can see it, right? You can kind of see it here, and basically that's what it is, right? So we got these pinks showing through. Let's change the shadowy tone, right? See what happens there? It got a lot greener in the dark places, the darker spots, right? And so we're in that green. Let's stick in that green for now. Like I said, you can play with the saturation of that as well, right? So turn that way down and say I like that pink popping on the gun over here. We can turn that way up, right? And now I don't technically prefer it, but just to kind of show you, what we can do here, right? But now, like I said, I had already found that this looked really good, and so that's kind of where I want to be with it. But blue. Let's turn that saturation way back up. And so that's probably my preferred split tones for this image, right? But you can see, that's why I was saying I hadn't really figured out any good combinations for this one yet. But we can try while we're here and see what we see, right? Turn the saturation way up on them highlight tones. Maybe too much, huh? It does. It has a strong effect. Let's try it on the shadows. Well, that's kind of interesting. But now, like I said, I don't know exactly what combination will work best for this image. And not necessarily, not every image is going to work with some split toning. Especially because this one has such a wide range of colors. It'd be hard to find a middle ground, right? But on this other image, right, it's all blue with some translucent parts and stuff. It'd be nice to, it'd be easy. It's easier to find a balance or acceptable trade-off, I guess, right? Because you can see, like I said, I don't prefer the pinks, but if you go with the pinks, it doesn't necessarily look terrible. It looks kind of neat, right? Some pictures might do better with it than others, that's all. Let's go with this picture. This is a picture I really like as well, but it has a lot of issues. It's kind of washed out and hazy, foggy, right? I like it in concept, but it really could use a lot of improvement, right? So let's come in here and see what we can do. Right, let's see what auto does. Oh no, that's even worse. Let's try turn that exposure down just a little bit. Right, contrast up just a little bit, and look at that already. Right? Look at the difference. Let's keep going here. Right? We're gonna try and get that snow to look a lot brighter. So these highlights are probably gonna come way up. Right? And the shadows can come down just a bit. The whites we're gonna want real bright. Well, maybe not all the way up, but blacks can come down a bit, make them a little blacker, right? There we go. On to clarity. How's that gonna look? Now see, this is what I was talking about before. You don't want to overdo it on some of these, because once I bumped it all the way up, it looks, I don't know, looks bad. It's almost too stark, I guess. I'm playing with the wrong option. There we go. Clarity. Right? And like I said, clarity all the way down, make it real muddy. Clarity all the way up, it starts to look like an oil painting or something. Right? And so, like I said, you bump it up just a little bit. And the vibrance too, right? Some people might be inclined just to turn that color all the way up so it pops. But I don't know that that's the right option, right? A little bit, yeah, a little bit works. And saturation, same thing, right? You don't want to go too far unless you mean to. Personally, I'm probably going to leave it right at 0. Now, like I said, I'm going to skip the tone curve, and we'll come in here to the HSL, hue, saturation, and luminance, right? And now, I like this a lot, but you can come in here, we'll go with the blue. I'm going to turn up to try and add to that brightness, I think. Like I said, I want that background looking well lit. Yeah. And now for the green, I might go down, right? Because Hulk himself has his back to the sun. If you can see the light on his shoulder and arm, right? And his chest is in the dark, right? So let's go to the green luminance and turn it down a bit. Start to look like his front is shadowy. And look at that. Look at the difference that makes. And now I might do something similar. similar for her hair, right? The orange. Look at that. Right. And now I think I'm going to bring this green back up just a little bit because that might be too dark. But again, you can see the difference. Right. Look at that difference. And as I'm going, right, I had already made it darker. But as I'm going, I'm thinking I can go a little darker even. So I'm going to go back up here again to the shadows and the blacks and try and pull those down a little bit. I'm going to try and rebalance them, right? I'm pulling the black back up because I don't want all of this dark. But I do want his hair, her clothes, even his pants. I want those things darker, right? So, might come back down here to the green luminance, come back up a little bit again, right? And now you can see the difference. That's a huge difference. I don't want to say like I'm done with it because I'm not, but come down here to detail. Right, we got sharpening. And now, again, just like saturation and some of these other things, I see a lot of guys, they'll just turn that all the way up. And you don't want that because you can see, right, it starts to look real grainy. And like I said, too much texture where I want it smooth. It looks choppy, right? So you might want some sharpening, but you got to be careful, right? And I want to turn the detail down so it keeps as little detail. If you turn the detail up, it's going to look grainy and choppy, right? It's going to keep detail. If you turn it down, it'll drop or lose some of those details, I think, right? Turn the masking up, and it'll start to mask some of the sharpening. It just looks a little smoother, I think. Noise reduction, luminance, right? And that's basically noise reduction, right? You can see it got a lot smoother, but almost too smooth, really. You don't want to go too smooth, just like those other options, right? You might want to smooth it out a little bit. Yeah, see, all the way up it looks like it has more grain to the texture. Turn it down, it has less grain to the texture. We might go about halfway for this one. Don't want them looking too smooth. Contrast. Color. Okay, it changed something over here. Let me turn it back up again. That's definitely a little smoother. I think I'm going to leave it. Ooh, that's a little sharper, isn't it? Let's leave that up. Smoothness. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's do another side by side here. There we go. Yeah, see that blue in the background? That's really starting to pop better too. It looks like some blue you might see out there in the snow, as opposed to I mean, that looks, I don't want to say that looks bad, but you get what I'm saying. It really pops better. Yeah, I don't mess with these lens correction effects. This is vignetting, and vignetting can be good, but I don't use it a lot. But for like example in this one, I did use it, right? And that's what I'm trying to get better at, using some of this stuff, right? But you can probably, well, maybe you can or can't, I don't know, but I'm pointing it out here. I used the vignetting to cut these corners in better than they would be without it. And actually, let me go back. Watch, where's vignetting? I can turn it off. There you go. You can see around his foot here, there's this hot spot here, and this kind of just felt like it was trailing off. It didn't necessarily need both corners, but I didn't like what was going on, and even maybe a little bit up here too. And so I wanted to play with it and see if I couldn't use it, and it does. It really rounded it out better. See? Got rid of some of these distracting parts. Oh, did I hit the wrong one? Oh, why is it doing that? There we go. There we go. See? Alright. So you got a lot going on up here in this corner. Watch. That it's hiding. It's cleaning that up. And then both of these corners are getting cleaned up. Right. So that vignetting, like I said, I don't use it a lot, but when you use it in the right place, it can make a world of difference. So again, I don't know that I necessarily need it here or even want it here, but let's try. Right? No, I'm not going to add grain, but some people do. Some people like to add grain, right? I don't necessarily. But again, you don't necessarily want to remove all the grain either, right? So sometimes you might want to add some grain, right? If I was zoomed in real close on Hulk's face here, it might be worth it, a thought, to try and add a little bit of texture if I've lost some or need some, right? But I'm not going to do that here. Well, let's see what it looks like. See what that vignette does. Not a whole lot, but it does brighten it up a bit. It makes it feel that much more focused, I think, right? That much brighter. But, I mean, I'm pretty happy with some of these results. Right? Look at that. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. So I'll probably spend some time getting these pictures looking a little nicer. Post them on the social medias here, either tonight or tomorrow morning or sometime soon. I got a good handful of pictures here I want to play with, though. But you guys don't have to sit here for all of it. This is a long video already, I think, isn't it? I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything I wanted to throw in here, but I can always throw it in the next one. As always, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, checking out my video, checking out my Photoshop skills that need some polishing up. Hope you guys have a great Monday. Get this week started off right. Keep playing with them toys, and I'll talk to you again real soon.